Hi everyone, welcome to Startup Wars 2025 info session. My name is Natalie and I'm part of the team at TNB Aura. And I'm very excited to share with you a little bit about Startup Wars today. But before I do so, let me share across a video to share a little bit more about ourselves and what we're doing.
Do you believe in the right moment? What if I told you there is a place in that moment? A place where what if becomes what is. Where tradition and innovation seamlessly work together. Where technology can create entire markets. Southeast Asia is in the advent of a breakthrough. A new wave that is set to change the world as we know it. But how exactly do we amplify this wave? Well, it starts by looking inwards and finding visionaries, innovators who dare to make a difference. And who are these market creators? And what do they hope to see for the future?
Tôi thấy một tương lai nơi mọi lao động phổ thông đều được tiếp cận với những giải pháp tài chính số nhân văn. Di mana semua individu, dimanapun lokasinya, mendapatkan akses yang sama pada barang dan kebutuhan pokok dengan harga yang terjangkau. A world for forms that are smart, connected, and green.
Masyarakat di mana setiap orang memiliki akses ke pendidikan yang lebih baik.
Saya melihat satu masa depan di mana petani dan seluruh komunitasnya bisa mendapatkan segala apa adanya dalam hanya satu klik.
Where we can keep our streets clean and our air fresh.
Pasar di mana ada transparansi di berbagai bisnis.
See a world where age does not limit one's potential.
So what do all these uncommon companies with uncommon goals have in common? The shared mission to uplift the lives of the next billion.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a glimpse about what we do. And sorry, give me a second. Let me reshare the screen. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, my name is Natalie, and I'm part of the investment team at TNB Aura. And I also have here with me one of our partners at the firm, Joe, and he will share a little bit more insights into what we do at TNB Aura. So I'll hand it over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Nat. And then welcome everyone. It's glad to see that we have a lot of participants in this session. And then thank you for the interest in Startup War, TNB Aura, and the VC industry in general. I think before I jump into talk about TNB Aura and also how we do investment, I just want to explain to you guys the rationale of doing this Startup Wars, right? So originally, I actually graduated from NUS, right? I still recall back in the day in the school, the case studies used by the professors always around like 30, 40 years old is a little bit outdated to the current context. And also most of the case studies are written by the North American or the European institutions. So there is a lack of local context to Southeast Asia region specifically. And then as practitioners in the VC industry in Southeast Asia for many years, we feel like we have the responsibility and also the incentive to bring more local knowledge to the local institutions and the students who are interested into this space, and also give you guys more practical knowledge and also experience that we have seen in the past few years. So with that said, we can just briefly talk about who we are as TNB Aura. Yeah, so TNB Aura is a Singapore-based venture capital fund investing across Southeast Asia. So our journey begins in somewhere 2017, and then our first fund was set up in 2018, followed by second fund in 2021, and we just launched our third fund in 2024. So currently we have about 25 to 30 portfolio companies across Southeast Asia. And then the main markets we are looking at are Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines, right? And then we have 4 offices across the region, and about 22 to 23 headcounts total in the team. So we uh, currently, so by this benchmark platform of Prekin, right? So we are actually ranked as the first quartile fund by performance across Asia. And also, as you can see on the screen, we actually are backed by the global DFIs and fund of funds. And also, we are very actually rooted to all the institutions, local universities across the region, and then always get in touch with the students. So Southeast Asia as a whole, right? Especially if you look at by AUM, through across early stage, later stage VCs, growth and bio fund, it has been a rising trend in the past 10 to 15 years. And we are the second fastest economic growth region after India. And also a lot of the micro environment has been shifted in the past 5 years, especially after COVID. And then Southeast Asia is becoming a more and increasingly interesting region for global investors to put their capital in. And if you are thinking about the question like, okay, even in the VC space, right, there are different funds focusing at different industries or different stage of the investment, right? So TNB Aura, for TNB Aura, we specifically focus at Series A or Series B investments. And then, so if you look at the triangle on the left, right? So basically, there are a lot of seed stage investors or investors who started from investing at the seed stage, right? So those guys are really backing the founders at their really early stage, even in their product market fit R&D or when they are having a few POCs, pilot projects, right? So those guys are helping the founders to really find the product market fit. And then after that is where TNB Aura having its sweet spot, right? So typically we invest about 3 to 5 million US dollars as an entry check. And then we prefer to lead or co-lead a funding round to structure the round, set terms, and also make sure the due diligence is done in the highest standard possible across the region, and also help the company to institutionalize and then prepare them better for the subsequent round. And then after Series A, B round, there will be the growth stage investor, right? So in this space, there will be both regional and also international investor coming into play. And then, so other than the focus on the stage check size, we are actually sector agnostic fund, and then we do have very differentiated approach to our investment, right? So this slide basically shows you briefly how we do it. So first thing, we identify from actually collaborating with the local universities on a few research projects, right? So we actually identified that Southeast Asia as a region is more similar to China and India about 10 to 15 years ago, right? And then so after that, we actually went to collect data of all the unicorns and unicorns companies from China and India for the past few, I think, past 2 decades. And then basically from, I think we have about over 100 different companies, successful examples from these two regions. And then we also collect the data of their funding rounds, valuation across different timeline. And then we basically use that database to identify, okay, what are the industries that has critical mass, high enough potential to be able to emerge in Southeast Asia, right? But of course, China, India versus Southeast Asia is very different in terms of market size, development in different industries. So that's why we use microdata to do re-market sizing of those companies in China, India to Southeast Asia to get a sense of, okay, what are the potential of those business models to be built in Southeast Asia. And then so that's from there we identify about 40 industries, 69 different verticals, and then 182 specific business models. And then after having that insight, we actually run a regular process almost on a monthly basis to we call it industry sprint because it's actually an industry research in the top-down way, but we just call it sprint because we want to do it fast. So basically, in the industry sprint, we study the global the global market trend, the supply chain, identify key stakeholders, and then we also conduct specific case studies of unicorn companies or listed companies from other region, and then we take those insights and then start talking to all the founders and companies in that specific industry across the region, right? So once we build enough conviction in a certain industry and specific business model that we prefer, we will proceed on to do due diligence on the potential winning team that we identified from our conversation during the research process. Yeah. So that's generally how our investment process work from a top-down way, right? And then this is just a recent example that was just announced later towards the end of last year, right? So this is one of the first investment from our third fund. The company is called Charge Plus, right? So if you follow the slide, right? So firstly, we actually conduct a global research on the entire EV industry. And then we also identify the value chain, we break down the value chain of the EV industry globally, identify the key stakeholders, and then we also identify about 6 main verticals for us to look deeper. But of course, I think from these 6 verticals for Southeast Asia, we identified 2 verticals that are interesting. One is EV two-wheeler, which we already had the investment from our first fund. And then the next one is charging infrastructure, right? So once we identify that, we conduct further research into identifying the specific business models within the EV charging infrastructure, right? So there are basically 4 specific business models, and then we feel the end-to-end model and the charging operator model are the most interesting by the data points. And then after having those insights, we went into look at country level metrics and data in each country of Southeast Asia. So surprisingly, from our research, right? So in the VC space, typically Indonesia by size is the largest. However, for EV or EV infrastructure space, Singapore is actually the largest market, followed by Thailand and Indonesia, purely by the adoption of EV vehicles in each country. And then after that, we went to speak to about over 20 startups and also corporate-led EV infrastructure arms. And then after that, we identified Charge Plus as the potential winner. And then we basically made our investment into them. And this is just a snapshot of all the portfolio companies that we have backed. Most of them are the market leader in their specific country, region, and also their specific vertical. And then hopefully that gives you a high-level sense on how we approach the investment from a research-driven and top-down way. And then I think for the next session, I will pass it back to Nat to touch more on the details of the startup wars.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate it. I hope that everyone has been listening because I think some of the global unicorn methodologies that Joe has shared, you will also be using them as part of the Startup Wars case competition. So let me, before I begin, let me just share a quick video on the breakdown of the Startup Wars that we held in the past years.
To increase the awareness, right, of venture capital ecosystem among the students. Second thing is to give the students or the participants a real perspective of how a VC investment process works.
I think this is a very good opportunity for all those who participated. Even those who didn't get into the finals, I'm sure that they have learned a lot because they get the chance to go through the whole process, the thinking behind, what makes a good deal, why they make certain choices in terms of the companies that they select to present and so forth.
I realized I was on milk. So I hope that video gives you a quick overview of what you will get to experience throughout the Startup Wars. I think Startup Wars has been held for the last 3 consecutive years, starting in Singapore, expanding from Singapore to Indonesia and Philippines. And then this year, we are moving into 5 countries across Southeast Asia. And so especially for this year, we are participating with many VCs as well as universities, some including Plug and Play, Northstar, Jalawan Capital, Doe Ventures, Foxmont, and also different universities in each of the local country, right? You saw NUS, SMU, but also Ateneo, Binus University, Sunway University. So I think what we really try to do this year is to allow every single student from across ASEAN to be able to have a sense of what it is like to be part of sort of the venture capital ecosystem. So I guess without further ado, I'll introduce how the case competition will be structured. So in round one, you will choose one of the three industries that we have been looking at. So obviously from a global, as Joe said earlier, from the global unicorn methodology, TNB Aura looks at 44 sort of like industries. We're not going to let you do that. We have narrowed it down to three industries for you to choose from. First one is asset management, second one is beauty, and then third one is cybersecurity. Once you have chosen one of these industries, you will start conducting your own VC sprint or research. And from all of the submissions that we have, the top 6 teams from each country will move into round 2. In this round 2, as you have seen in the video, you will be able to attend an Ask Me Anything day session where you will be visiting a number of VC officers, as well as receive first-hand mentoring sessions from VC professionals. After that, from that research that you have done from the first round, you will choose a Series A or B startup to evaluate and to pitch at the grand finales that will be held in Jakarta, Indonesia. For your information, top 5 teams, regardless of which country you are chosen from, you will be flown into Jakarta to attend this grand finale. So here are some of the key dates that you should take note of. Most important date, registration closes on 15 August. So gather your teams of 3 to 4. As long as they are within your country, it doesn't have to be from the same university, right? You can sign up and participate. 3 days later on Monday, the round 1 case will be released on 18 August, and then you will submit you have about 2 to 3 weeks to work on your case study. And then we'll select the 6 teams. These 6 teams will all get to experience different AMA sessions and understand how their VC ecosystem work in their own country. And then you will have a presentation before the top team in each country will be selected to participate in the grand finales in Jakarta. So what do you stand to win? You will stand to obviously win cash prizes. The Singapore Venture Capital Association, SVCA, has also kindly sponsored free VC classes where you will get to have first-hand resources and experience with VC professionals. Every participating venture capital firms will also offer internship opportunities. Obviously, during the AMA sessions and the grand finale, you will also get to network and meet partners, investors from the different venture capital firms. And finally, we will also give sort of a free VC 101 pack where you will receive term sheet, due diligence list, understand how an IC memo is being structured in the real world. So all of this is all part of the Startup Wars package. So be sure to register and join us today. So I think that's all we have for sort of the briefing session. Right now, we'll open up for any Q&A. I know that some of you are already typing in the chat box to ask some questions. But if you have any Q&A, please type it down and then we can answer it together with everyone.
I think we can start off with one question. It came asking, how does a typical day of a VC look like? So maybe we can start off there.
Is it me or is it Joe? Joe. Okay, I can start off. So I think it looked very different, but I think a big part of the VC role is looking for new companies that you want to invest in. So I would say about 40 to 50% of your time, you will be reaching out to founders and you'll be meeting founders, right? Hearing what they are building on the ground, and then also bringing back to your own team to pitch. So that's half of your work. Another half of your work, especially for TNB Aura as a high conviction Series A and B fund, we are very involved in the day-to-day portfolio management. And this can look like brainstorming with the founders on what's the next step onto their business or their business model. It can also look like strategizing about their next fundraising opportunity, right? So I think you can think about it from broadly these 2 buckets. Yeah, sourcing, meeting founders, as well as the second bucket on like portfolio management.
Okay, we have one more question that just came in. It asks, what is one thing that VCs take importance on when reviewing an investment? Maybe Joe, you can take this question.
Just one thing. I think to evaluate any investment opportunity, we have to probably think about like more than 100 different aspects, right? So, but I think I would say largely from our perspective, right? First thing, because of our research-driven investment process, so for an investment that is in the due diligence stage or even the evaluation stage, right? It should have been identified as one of the preferred business model in the red market we have identified from our research, right? And then after that, we will basically look at about 10 different main aspects of a company. I can name a few, right? So we'll look at the management, right? Management team. I think this is the most important for any startup. And then actually this part has the highest weightage in terms of our evaluation. And then we also look at the market size, which is the typical Samsung analysis. This is basically to get a view on how big is the potential of such an business model to be to emerge in Southeast Asia. And then, of course, other than this, we will look at the product and defensibility, unit economics, the funding round itself, valuation, and also we will run our investment return analysis to see whether a certain investment opportunity can get to the expected return that we want to generate.
Okay, I think there's a bit of confusion about what Startup Wars is, right? So let's clarify that. A couple of questions just came in about whether it's a VC point of view or a startup point of view. And like I said in the chat, the competition is designed for you to take on the perspective of a VC analyst, and you're evaluating these startups, right? So maybe Nat, maybe you can dive in deeper into what round one looks like for the competition.
Yeah. So yes, Startup Wars will be from a perspective of an investor. I think in round one, basically once you receive sort of the briefing rubrics, you will choose one of the three industries that we mentioned: asset management, beauty, and cybersecurity. Similar to if you were listening closely to what Joe was sharing on Charge Blast, we'll break down the sort of the value chain. You will assess the value chain opportunities. You will look at global companies that have done well in asset management, beauty, or cybersecurity, right, in the sector that you have chosen. And then you would think about what kind of business models they have, and then deep dive into whether it works for Southeast Asia and what are the potential investment opportunities that could be in Southeast Asia. So really it is an exercise where you are deep diving into an industry with the objective of finding opportunities where we can invest in from an investor perspective. Yeah, so that will be round one. And then round two, you'll be basically building upon round one, formulating your pitch to pitch a Series A to B startup that you find in Southeast Asia that you think the IC committee, which is the panel of judges, should invest in, right? So that will be sort of the breakdown of the case. And there will be guidance in when the case is being released to tell you what are the specific areas that you should touch on, including value chain, business model, global companies that you should look at. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Nat. If you don't mind, could you help me share the key dates slide? We have a question about the AMA sessions, right? So I just want to touch base on that. It asks, will the AMA sessions be held in person at each university or each country? So the AMA session will be held in each country. So we'll be holding it once in Singapore on the 26th of September. Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia will be held on 30th of September. So the format for these AMA sessions is that you'll go to our partner VCs officers, interact with the partners there, learn more about how they do their investment process, and then you'll also be meeting with TNB Aura partners as well, right? So it's a half-day agenda for you to meet with other VC partners and just get to know more about how different VCs in the Southeast Asian region are operating and how they work. Okay, we have a next question about the submission format. Basically, what is the submission format? So maybe Nat, you can take this question.
Yeah. Very simple. I think it is I think for the first round, it's a 10-page PowerPoint slide. And then I think for the second round, it will be a 15-page PowerPoint slide. Exact format, how to submit will all be in the briefs, but it will be from a presentation perspective.
Right. And then switching gears for a bit, back to questions about VC. What's your biggest challenge in running a VC across Southeast Asia?
Biggest challenge. I think there are many challenges, right? I think first of all, right, running a VC in Southeast Asia region, right? You need to recognize the differences from country to country. Although Southeast Asia as a whole, we have like more than 600 million population, and then we are, I think, one of the largest economic region around the world. But actually, each country is very different from each other, right? So we need to understand the local context in each country we are investing into, in terms of from culture, regulation, demographic, and also the way of people do business and then form partnerships, right? I think that's one of the challenges. But fortunately, we have over the past few years, right? We have found very good country partners, right? So we have country partners in Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam who actually help us to build a local context and presence. And also we have very good support from the local I would say vendors who help us to do due diligence into different investee companies, and also legal counsels to make sure that everything is done properly in the country. Yeah, so I think that is one of the challenge. Second challenge I can think about across the region is basically to set up the right team structure, and also always have a close relationship and then communication with the team members in each of the country, right? So that's why we always try to fly all our team members in other country into Singapore at least on a quarterly basis, and then so every team member who are just got onboarded to our team, they will start in Singapore for like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's one last question about Startup Wars. And I think this relates back to round one, right? The question goes, do you suggest we focus our scope on our own countries? So for round one, you are expected to identify the business model that works best for your specific country. So if you are from a Singapore university, for example, you'll be tasked to assess if the business model works in Singapore. Okay, so I think we'll leave the chat open for about a few more minutes to see whether we have any other questions about Startup Wars, the case competition. Any last few questions that we have, just drop them in the chat box right now. Okay, we have one question about presentation and Q&A session. I'm assuming that this refers to the grand finals. You'll be given 10 minutes to present with a 5 minutes Q&A segment. Yeah.
To clarify on the first submission, round one, it's a PPT format, but that is a submission after you are being selected, the top 6 teams. They will do a short presentation for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then only in the grand finale you will have the full 10 minutes presentation and 5 minutes Q&A.
We have one more question. It says, will we get a confirmation email upon sign up? So yes, the submission for your team registration will be via Google Forms, and you will receive a confirmation email upon sign up. If you have not, you can drop us an email at startupwars@tnbaura.com, and I will follow up with you. One more question. Are valuations of the company necessary? Nat, maybe you can take this question.
Yes, I think there is a segment on valuation. You will see in the case study brief. Yep.
Okay. I don't think we have any other questions right now that haven't already been answered. I think we are good for today. All right. Thank you everyone for joining today's information session. I hope that was very useful for you guys. If you have any other further questions, please remember to follow us on our social media channels so that you can stay updated on our content. Or if you have any questions, drop us an email at startupwars@tnbaura.com. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for joining. Cheers.